CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, Bryan Danielson, who's better? That's our topic of the day for this Elite Heat podcast for the week, as we're in the build to SummerSlam Power, but more big picture. This is a objective, categoric debate, as we'll get to later. But first, Kevin, you've got a bit of other wrestling business, a bit of
Yes.
Meltzer, Alvarez. Talk to me about that.
Yes. So, for those of you who are not aware, NXT Heatwave took place on Sunday, this past Sunday. So about 4 days ago, as we're recording this now. And there was a match featuring two wonderful talents by the names of Kalani Jordan and Sol Ruka. Now, have you seen this match, Jimmy?
I have. I gave it a look. Yep.
Yeah. So if you saw the match, you would know there was some high spots, some flipping and flopping, and there was actually one sequence in the match that was like a tribute or like a parody of Ricochet versus Will Ospreay from like 8 years ago in New Japan, I believe. To the point where Ricochet even quote tweeted and was like, "Hey, that looks like me and Ospreay, bro." So it was one of those matches, lots of flips, lacking psychology, bit of a performance art.
Yep.
So now, keep in mind, this match happened at NXT Heatwave. I don't know what city. I'm assuming it was in Full Sail in Orlando or wherever they tape NXT now in Orlando. I don't know what city it was in, but I'm assuming that. Somebody will correct me if I'm wrong. I know they will. So
it wasn't there. I forget the exact location it was, and someone's going to correct you. But anyway, carry on.
Yeah.
Carry on.
That's not what city this match took place in is not the point. What is the point, though, is that this match did not take place in Tokyo, Japan. That much I can tell you. Now, if this match had taken place in Tokyo, Japan, Dave Meltzer and Bryan Alvarez probably would have loved it, especially if it featured talents that no average person or average wrestling fan has ever heard of. Bryan Alvarez and Dave Meltzer would have loved it. But of course, because it took place within the confines of a WWE-owned and produced ring and television show, Dave Meltzer and Bryan Alvarez did not like it. Which is fine. They're entitled to their own opinion, whatever. But what's fascinating about this are some of the comments that they made. And particularly Meltzer. So they're talking about this behind their paywall. And I'm just going to quote Meltzer now. This is a quote directly from the horse's mouth, pal. "It was an athletic display. It was not a wrestling match. It was almost weird to me to watch it because it's kind of like you never see a match like this anywhere. Really. In a sense, when I was watching it, I'm going like, this is not good. But the crowd liked it. I think the crowd's going to like anything. And the moves were fantastic. I mean, absolutely fantastic. They're great athletes." Okay. All right. Now, here's Meltzer again. "There was just nothing but cool moves. But between the cool moves, it wasn't even average between cool moves. If you're just into cool moves, this match had them in spades. I think with experience, they could both be superstars." Co-host Bryan Alvarez said this: "There's a lot more to wrestling than just moves." Okay? "No doubt," said Meltzer. Quote, "Every crowd's different. I think that a lot of crowds this match would not have worked with. But for this crowd, it was different than the other matches. It worked for the crowd. I don't think that it was great. I don't think that it was a great pro wrestling match or anything like that. But I do think they're both going to be stars. This was a very, very heavily choreographed gymnastics display that was disguised as a wrestling match." All right, so I'll stop here. I'll stop right there. I'm going to focus on that last quote. This was a very, very heavily choreographed gymnastics display that was disguised as a wrestling match. So, again, as I preface by saying this, Ricochet quoted this. It was like, "Hey, this reminds me of me and Ospreay." Now, that's a match that Meltzer loved and sang praise for. I'm not sure exactly what he said. I could care less to look up an old Dave Meltzer quote from eight years ago. I'm assuming that he was like, "Oh, this match is what's the word? Like influential. Yeah. They're setting new trends in wrestling. This is where the wrestling business is going. Mm-hmm. Great athletes, all this." And now 8 years later, when it happens in a WWE ring, it's gymnastics. It's not real wrestling. There's more to wrestling than just moves. Does AEW know that? Does AEW know that there's more to wrestling than just moves? Meltzer and Alvarez's favorite company that they're on the payroll for? There's no doubt now. No doubt in my mind after seeing this. No doubt in my mind that AEW is paying Alvarez and Meltzer. I mean, we all were pretty speculative that they were, but it's 100%. This just confirmed it, bro.
Yeah.
This is like this match is every other Wednesday or Saturday in AEW. You see this on Collision, you see this on Rampage. Except in those matches, somebody gets hurt. You know, somebody gets dropped in their neck or it breaks their collarbone, injures themselves. But now here in WWE, it was well choreographed, well done. And if I'm not mistaken, both these ladies, Solruka and Kalani Jordan, were legitimate athletes in college. I believe one of them was into like gymnastics. I'm not too sure, but I do know they were legitimate athletes. So they already have an athletic background, and they have the guidance and safety of the WWE Performance Center. So it's gonna look a hell of a lot different than, you know, two wrestlers in whatever country, whatever city on an independent show going out there and doing flips and putting their life at risk. But because it's WWE, it's bad. It's not a good pro wrestling match. This is hypocrisy at its finest, bro. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, have you seen the interview with Chris Van Vliet and Dave Meltzer? Or at least the little short pal of Van Vliet being like, New Japan has 92 5-star matches, WWE has 9, TNA has 1. Like, what? And Dave Meltzer's like, oh, it's the style of the match. Whatever. And it's just like, okay, sure it is. You know, WWE's had 9 5-star matches, apparently. And New Japan's had over 10 times more. Of course. Of course that's the case. You know, it's one of those things, you know, it is what it is. Yeah, wrestlers have come out and trashed Dave Meltzer. Seth Rollins on Impulsive was like, don't give that guy a lick of attention. His ratings mean nothing. Stuff like that. It's things like this which make you go, huh? What? You know, because as you literally just say, if that match happens under the All Elite Wrestling umbrella, that's being praised 5.5 stars, revolutionary. That sets the trend for 2024 women's wrestling. That changes how we perceive women's wrestling. If Toni Storm and Mariah May do that match, that gets 6 stars. You know, so I don't know. It's just the state of wrestling, isn't it? Really, it's where we're at. It's the wrestling media as we have it. It's pretty disappointing that it's that biased, but it is what it is. At least we can identify that and then just move on from it, I guess. But yeah, it's pretty hypocritical, as you say.
Yeah, it's interesting to say the least. It's like it's clear. It's just clear. It's obvious. It's in front of everybody's face, and everybody's talking about it. You know, I mean, I think Conan talked about it on his podcast, Eric Bischoff, like a lot of people are talking about this. And for obvious reasons, you know, like people are like, oh, well, don't give Meltzer attention and Brian Alvarez attention. Like, it's hard not to give them attention. They're the faces of wrestling media. They're literally the two biggest journalists. You know, there's like Sean Ross Sapp is up there now, and there's some other guys there, but Alvarez and Meltzer are the two guys. Like, Meltzer's been doing this for like 40 years or whatever it is with the Wrestling Observer. It's impossible to ignore them. And I'm not mad about it. Like, yeah, they can have an opinion all they want. It's just shameless to see this level of like, this level of shilling. The opposite of shilling, where they're just like, it's unbelievable to hear these guys say that there's too much flipping, too much flopping. Of all people to be saying this about a WWE match, like, this is what they want on WWE TV. They want to see this on WWE TV. They get it, and now they're saying this.
And obviously, the people be like, "Oh, you're getting so bothered by this," or "This is, you know, they're living in your head rent free." As soon as we finish this podcast, this discussion topic, I'm not giving this a bout of daylight again. I'm not thinking about this again. But we need to, while we're on this platform, identify hypocrisy and call it out as such. It's ridiculous. And yeah, these are basically the faces of wrestling media, the faces of wrestling journalism, which makes it all the more worse. If this was a random Joe Blow with 20 subscribers on YouTube, he gets 9 views talking about all the different wrestling shows, doing reviews. Who cares? this is Meltzer and Alvarez, and naturally their platform gets viewed more. So when hypocritical stuff like this comes up, it's more worthy of being called out as such. So yeah, pal, there you go.
Yeah, and somebody literally tweeted like a mashup of the Ospreay and Ricochet match that Meltzer was like on his knees for, and this Ruka and Kalani Jordan match, and it's like some of the sequences are literally word for word, bar for bar, bro, exactly the same. So then somebody quote tweeted Meltzer, called him a hypocrite, and this was Meltzer's response. Wouldn't you know it? Nothing about how great the moves were, how it worked for the audience, the key point in the review that I had, and how much potential they both have. Wonder why that's not in the quote. It's not in the quote because you're going against your own rules. You know, you love these highly choreographed, action-filled matches when it happens in AEW and in New Japan. When it happens in WWE, you don't like it. It's odd. It's not what journalism is supposed to be. Journalism is supposed to be in the middle, objective, you know, consistent. It's supposed to be consistent, right?
Yeah, true.
You know, like, and it does more for their brand. More people are talking about them being Meltzer and Alvarez. Maybe more people are checking out the Wrestling Observer now because of this. It wouldn't surprise me if they were speaking behind the scenes. They were like, "Yeah, we're gonna do this because people will talk about this. The other dirt sheets will eat it up. All the old timey guys that have a podcast, the Bischoffs of the world, will eat this up. Let's do this." It wouldn't surprise me if this was orchestrated.
No, I guarantee it. Yeah, you take that match and use it as an opportunity to get your brand boosted. What can we get to get people talking about us and our show? Sounds about right. Yeah, I mean, journalism, not just wrestling, but generally, like the neutrality and just down the middle of journalism is just nowhere near what it used to be, but is what it is, pal.
Yeah, it is what it is. All right, so are you ready?